Prince Harry just walked off live television, and the reason has everyone talking. The royal-turned-rebel was sitting on the bright and cheerful set of Today with Jenna and friends, but what started as a friendly chat quickly turned into one of the most talked-about moments of his career. Cameras caught the tension. The audience went silent. And before anyone could understand what was happening, Harry stood up and walked away. Clips from the interview are spreading everywhere. Some show Harry's tense expression right before he got up. Others show Jenna trying to hold the conversation together as producers scramble behind the cameras. Social media is on fire. Viewers are divided. Some say Harry was pushed too far. Others say he overreacted. But everyone is asking the same question. What really happened on that stage? In the hours after the broadcast, headlines poured in. Prince Harry storms off Today's show. Tense clash between Harry and Jenna goes viral. Did Harry just lose his temper on live TV? It was the kind of television moment that people will talk about for weeks. But what led to it was not just one question or one awkward pause. It was the result of something much deeper. Behind that moment was pressure, frustration, and perhaps exhaustion that has been building for years. This was not just another celebrity interview. This was a rare glimpse into the cracks beneath Harry's calm public image. Viewers could sense that this was personal. Every word seemed to weigh more heavily than the last. And when the breaking point came, there was no turning back. But before we dive into what went down, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because you will not want to miss what comes next. The morning started like any other celebrity interview on national television. The bright lights of the Today with Jenna and Friends studio filled the room, and the energy was upbeat. Prince Harry was there as part of his latest press tour, promoting a new mental health initiative tied to his ongoing documentary series. It was meant to be an open, honest conversation about purpose, healing, and moving forward. For the audience, it looked like another comfortable chat between a royal and friendly hosts. But inside, the tension was already building long before the cameras started rolling. Harry had been on a whirlwind of interviews over the past few weeks. Each stop seemed to circle back to the same subjects he was trying to move past: his relationship with the royal family, his life with Meghan, and how he viewed his role after stepping away from royal duties. Reporters had picked apart his words, turning thoughtful comments into viral headlines. Some viewers saw him as brave. Others saw him as bitter. The truth, as always, was more complicated. By the time he sat down with Jenna, he was carrying the weight of all those mixed reactions. Jenna and her co-hosts were known for their lively and curious style. They could make their guests feel at ease one moment, then hit them with a surprisingly bold question the next. The chemistry between the hosts was warm, and their goal was always to make the show feel like a conversation among friends. The crew expected that Harry's interview would be the same: relaxed, personal, and engaging. The set itself looked inviting. The morning light streamed through the studio windows, soft background music played, and the laughter of the hosts filled the air. Harry smiled as he walked in, dressed neatly in a light jacket and open-collar shirt. There was small talk about the weather, his recent travels, and his upcoming projects. Everything seemed calm. He appeared composed, even at ease as the cameras went live. But behind that polite smile, something was different. Observers noticed that his answers were shorter than usual, his tone a little more guarded. The mood was pleasant on the surface, but the tension was quietly humming beneath it. The producers, watching from behind the monitors, sensed that this might not be the smooth, predictable segment they had planned. As the conversation began to shift toward more personal topics, no one in that studio could have predicted how quickly the tone would change. The calm before the clash had begun, and it would not stay calm for long. The interview had been moving along smoothly. Harry talked about his new foundation, the projects he had been working on, and the importance of mental health awareness. The hosts smiled, the audience listened, and for a while, everything seemed perfectly calm. But then Jenna leaned forward slightly, her tone friendly but curious, and asked the question that would change the whole atmosphere of the room. She said, "Harry, do you ever wish things had been different with your family? That maybe Meghan's influence changed your path more than you expected?" It sounded harmless, the kind of question that came up in almost every interview he did. But this time, something about it struck a nerve. Harry froze for a split second. His expression shifted from relaxed to tight. He let out a small breath, as if he was holding back frustration. There was a pause that seemed to last longer than it actually did. The audience felt it too. The energy in the studio shifted from warm to uneasy. Harry looked down for a moment, then back at Jenna, and said quietly, "I think people have misunderstood who influenced who." His voice was calm, but his eyes said something different. He was tired of defending the same story, tired of feeling like every answer would be twisted into something else. Jenna, sensing the tension, tried to keep the tone light. She smiled and said, "Of course, but people are just curious, you know? It is such a fascinating journey." The co-hosts laughed softly, hoping to ease the mood. One of them even joked, "We are all just trying to understand royal life. It sounds like a movie." But the humor did not land. Harry gave a polite smile that faded almost immediately. Behind the cameras, producers exchanged looks. Something was shifting fast. The control room went quiet, watching every small reaction. The audience members sitting in the studio glanced at each other, unsure if they should laugh or stay silent. Everyone could sense that this was no longer the cheerful chat they expected. Harry's voice grew firmer as he continued. He said he did not think Meghan had changed his path. He said the real issue was how the media created that story in the first place. His tone was steady, but the words carried sharp edges. It was clear that he had reached his limit with that question. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. The air felt heavy. Jenna nodded, trying to move on, but it was too late. The spark had been lit. The tension that had been simmering quietly since the start of the interview was now right on the surface. No one in that studio or watching from home had any idea what would happen next. But everyone could feel it coming. The tension in the room had reached a point that no one could ignore. Jenna tried to move the conversation forward, but Harry was no longer smiling. His body language had changed completely. He leaned back slightly, folded his hands and said in a low voice, "I think that question was unfair." The studio fell silent. Even the background music faded into the air. Jenna looked surprised. She was not expecting a direct challenge, especially not from someone as media-trained as Harry. Harry continued, his tone sharper now. He said he had spent years talking about his experiences honestly, yet the same kind of question kept coming up again and again. He called it a pattern that made it seem like everything in his life could be traced back to Meghan. "It feels biased," he said. "It feels like no matter what I do or say, people will always blame her for it." Jenna, caught between professionalism and discomfort, tried to stay calm. She explained that her question came from curiosity, not judgment. She said people wanted to understand the story behind the decisions he made. Her voice was even and respectful, but Harry shook his head. He said, "That is the problem. People think they are curious, but they do not listen. They already have an idea of who we are." The back and forth grew tense. The co-hosts sat quietly, unsure if they should intervene. One of them tried to lighten the mood again, saying softly, "We all make choices for love, right?" But Harry did not laugh. His face showed frustration mixed with disbelief. He looked tired, as if this moment was the breaking point of months of pressure. His words came slower but heavier. "It is not about love being the reason I left. It is about survival. It is about protecting my family from a system that never protected us." The audience gasped quietly. A few people clapped, unsure if it was the right reaction. Jenna nodded gently, trying to hold her ground, but her expression showed concern. She said she respected his feelings, but she also had to ask the questions her viewers wanted answered. That was when Harry leaned forward and looked directly at her. His tone dropped. "Do your viewers want the truth, or do they just want a story that keeps the tabloids alive?" The words hung in the air. The studio crew exchanged nervous looks. Producers in the control room were whispering urgently, deciding whether to cut to a commercial. The cameras kept rolling. The tension was so thick that even the audience members seemed frozen in their seats. Jenna took a breath and said, "We are only trying to have a conversation." Harry gave a half smile that looked more like disbelief. "It stopped being a conversation when you made it about blame," he said quietly. The air around him felt charged. Then came the moment that crossed the line. Jenna, still trying to defend herself, said, "Harry, people just want to know if Meghan regrets pulling you away from your family." That was it. Harry blinked slowly, his jaw tightened, and he looked away from her. He pushed his chair back, removed his microphone, and stood up. The entire room went silent. Jenna tried to call after him, but he was already walking toward the exit. The camera followed for a second before the director cut to a wide shot of the stunned hosts. The studio was frozen in disbelief. No one had expected this. The interview that started as a warm chat had just turned into a moment of live television history. The moment Harry stood up, the studio went completely silent. Chairs creaked, a few audience members gasped, and the camera operators froze. For a second, no one moved. Harry adjusted his jacket, removed the microphone from his collar, and said quietly, "I think we are done here." His voice was steady, but his expression showed a mix of anger and disappointment. Without another word, he turned and began walking toward the studio exit. Jenna called out his name softly, almost in disbelief. "Harry, wait," she said, but he did not look back. The co-hosts sat in stunned silence, trying to figure out what to do next. One of them whispered something to the producer through her earpiece, while another nervously smiled at the camera. Jenna looked down at her cue cards, then back up, still processing what had just happened. The producers in the control room were already in motion. The director gave the signal to cut to a wide shot. Someone shouted to go to a commercial, but the live feed caught Harry's back as he disappeared through the side of the stage. The transition was clumsy. The audience did not know whether to clap or stay quiet. A few awkward chuckles broke out, but most people just stared in disbelief. Inside the studio, the tension was heavy. The hosts tried to hold their composure. Jenna finally spoke, her tone calm but shaky. "We are going to take a short break," she said, forcing a smile. The show's theme music played, but it could not hide how shaken everyone looked. Within minutes, clips from the walkout started spreading online. Someone in the audience had recorded it on their phone and uploaded it to social media before the show even returned from commercial. The hashtag #HarryWalksOut began trending within the hour. Thousands of comments poured in. Some defended him, saying the question was unfair. Others accused him of overreacting. Meghan's name was once again at the center of debate, as people argued over whether she had influenced his reaction. News outlets picked up the story almost instantly. Headlines flooded social media feeds, each trying to capture the moment in their own way. Prince Harry storms off Today's Show. Royal drama on live TV. Did Jenna go too far? By the time the episode replayed in other time zones, the internet had already turned the clip into a global talking point. Back in the studio, the hosts regrouped quietly during the break. Their smiles had faded, replaced with uneasy looks. None of them said it aloud, but they all knew the same thing. This interview would follow them for a very long time. In the hours after the live broadcast, the network went into full damage control. The producers called an emergency meeting as soon as the cameras stopped rolling. Everyone in the room knew this was more than just an awkward moment. It was a PR crisis unfolding in real time. Within minutes, clips of Harry walking off the set had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times across social media platforms. The official statement came later that afternoon. The network released a short message saying they had tremendous respect for Prince Harry, and that the conversation did not go as planned. They added that the show values open dialogue and deeply regrets any discomfort caused during the discussion. It was polished, careful, and clearly designed to calm things down. But it did little to stop the wave of reactions already spreading online. Behind the scenes, insiders started talking. One anonymous staff member told a popular entertainment outlet that Harry felt ambushed by the tone of the interview. They said he had agreed to discuss his new project, not his personal life, and that the unexpected questions caught him off guard. Another source close to the royal family suggested that Harry was already under emotional strain from the ongoing pressure of media coverage. Royal experts were quick to weigh in. One well-known commentator said Harry is still deeply sensitive about how the media shapes his image, while another added that moments like these show how much tension still lingers between him and the press. Their analysis ran on every major morning show and news site. The narrative was forming fast and everyone wanted their say. Online fans were split. Supporters defended him fiercely, saying he had every right to walk away from what they called an unfair and invasive interview. Others said he should have handled it better, accusing him of letting his temper get the best of him. Hashtags and comment sections turned into debate forums, with thousands of people arguing over who was really to blame. As for the show, the next morning's broadcast looked noticeably different. Jenna opened with a calm, measured tone. She said the previous day's discussion became more intense than expected, and that they respect every guest's right to express themselves. The producers edited out the most heated parts from the online replay, replacing them with smoother transitions. But the clip of Harry leaving had already taken on a life of its own. It was replayed on talk shows, dissected by media analysts, and quoted across headlines worldwide. For the network, it became both a headache and a ratings boost. For Harry, it was another reminder of how quickly a single moment can turn into a global story. The damage control had begun, but the conversation was far from over. When the dust settled, many began to look beyond the surface. This was not just a heated exchange on live television. It was the reflection of something much deeper inside Prince Harry. Those who have followed his journey for years could see it in his eyes that day. The tension, the frustration, and the weariness were not just about one question. They were about years of carrying the weight of constant public judgment. Harry has spoken before about the emotional toll that comes with life under the spotlight. From his early days in the royal family to his decision to step away, the media has followed his every move. Each story, each headline, each rumor chips away at that sense of peace he tries so hard to protect. People close to him say he has never truly escaped that pressure, no matter how far he moves from the royal world. Those who know Harry well say his reactions always come from a place of protection. He has been open about how fiercely he guards his wife and children from the kind of media intrusion that once defined his own childhood. Losing his mother at such a young age to the same public frenzy left a mark that never fully healed. When someone brings up Meghan or his family in a way that feels critical or unfair, it is not just a question for him. It is a wound being touched again. One royal expert described it perfectly. They said, "What we saw on that stage was not anger, it was pain." He has spent years trying to control his own story, but moments like this remind him how little control he truly has. Another insider added that Harry often feels misunderstood, that every attempt to move forward gets pulled back by old narratives and judgment. So when that innocent question came up on live TV, it was never just about Meghan's influence or royal politics. It was about years of bottled emotion, frustration with the media, and a man who has grown tired of being defined by others. Some called it an outburst, but for many watching it looked more like a breaking point. A reminder that behind the titles and the cameras, there is still a human being trying to protect his peace. The aftermath of that walk-off is still sending waves through the media. In just a few hours, the clip spread across every platform. Headlines called it everything from a royal meltdown to a brave moment of honesty. For Prince Harry, it has become one of the defining moments of his recent public life. Whether he likes it or not, this single moment has changed how people see him. In the days that followed, his team stayed quiet. There was no official apology, no follow-up interview, and no public statement. That silence only fueled speculation. Was Harry planning to address it later, or was he choosing to let the noise die down? Some insiders claim his advisors are urging him to take a break from live interviews for a while. Others believe he may be preparing to speak in his own words, on his own terms, through a new documentary or a sit-down conversation. Within royal circles, reactions have been mixed. Those close to the palace are said to be frustrated, seeing the moment as another reminder of the gap between Harry and the rest of the family. Yet some royal watchers believe there may also be quiet sympathy. They know how hard the pressure can be, especially when private feelings become public entertainment. Still, it is unlikely that anyone within the royal family will speak openly about it. Silence has always been their way of managing public storms. The bigger question is what this means for Harry's image moving forward. To some, his reaction showed raw emotion and authenticity, something rare in the world of polished media appearances. To others, it signaled a man still struggling to manage his temper and past wounds. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Producers and talk show hosts are now split on whether to invite him again. Some fear another unpredictable moment, while others see it as a chance to draw massive ratings. One thing is certain, wherever Harry goes next, the cameras will follow, waiting for another glimpse of the man behind the royal name. And as the world continues to replay that clip, everyone is asking the same question. Will Prince Harry address what happened, or will he retreat once again into silence? One thing is for sure. This is not the last time we will hear about that walk-off. A single moment on live television revealed everything Prince Harry has been holding inside. Years of pressure, public judgment, and the battle between fame and privacy all came to the surface in that one interview. It was raw, emotional, and unforgettable. Whether you see it as a loss of control or a moment of truth, it showed the world just how heavy that crown can be, even when you choose to walk away from it. What do you think really set him off? Tell us in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe for more celebrity showdowns, exclusive analysis, and breaking updates from the royal world.